I'm so excited to be here with you because some of you know and have been following along with this journey, and others of you brand new to the Sangha, welcome wherever you are and whatever you're bringing in. This internal family systems work is truly my deepest passion. And the reason for that is because I've just seen the deepest, most profound work, healing, transformation, alchemy, insight, understanding in the swiftest amount of time. So, in terms of the economy of awakening, I really feel such a strong advocate for IFS as the centerfold to the work that I do, and that my clients and my students have found real meaningful change and lasting ease in. So, this inner council, uh, this is the work that I want to introduce you to today, and just bring in, a little taste of what this really can feel like on a day-to-day basis. So welcome. We're gonna dive in. I called this the Inner Council, a free masterclass in befriending the self. I named it Inner Council because this is really about the company that you keep. And I mean the closest company that you keep lifelong, which is your internalized voices, the self speak, if you will, that constant narration that's happening in the background. If you haven't done a silent meditation retreat, it won't be as obvious what parts are speaking to you day to day, narrating, judging, criticizing, planning, managing. But the question here is, with the cultivation of your own inner counsel, do you want them to be your greatest friends or your lifelong critics? And this is why I love IFS. This is a beautiful blending of Eastern and Western, right? We've got the Western depth psychology here, and then the Eastern knowing of self energy. This is why I love IFS so much. So we're at this frontier, and I think that internal family systems as a format has really been a radical suggestion of how to intermingle, how to marry, what we know about neuroplasticity, about brain imaging, about trauma, about resiliency, malleability of the neurons, of the synapses, right? All of that that's being intermingled into depth psychology. But then also these ancient Eastern insights. And I don't see any other field of psychology really acknowledging this ethos of what the Taoists call bodhicitta, Buddha nature. And so the IFS format is, I found, to be the greatest synthesis of really global wisdom traditions. And like seeing where those overlap, I found like there really must be some deep truth there. So this love this poem, What If All the Parts of Me. This is Wendy Vidalak, and this idea of integration of all of our different parts, right? From the forest fire, the water spring, all of these, the ancients to the trees, the critics inside, the managers, the planners, the worrywarts, the young wild, liberated, free parts. IFS is a field to integrate, to synthesize the psychological realm. And so I call IFS psycho spiritual contemplative methodology, right? That's a psychological synthesis. It is a great spiritual practice, really a bedrock of evolution in my own journey. And then there's the contemplative methodology, the inquiries, the discourse, the dialogue with parts, and the reframing of where we are in our life, what's active, what's exiled, what's needed now. Right? This is something that IFS shares with the Dharma path, with Buddhism, is that the art of inquiry, that longing for deep contemplation, it's part of the foundation of the method. And so if you're newer to the IFS system, I'm going to get into some of the more clear-cut parameters soon. And I know starting out, I'm speaking a little bit more abstractly, but one of the inquiries that forms our process in IFS is what has been excluded, what has been untolerated about myself, right? Those are the exiles. Where are the places that I'm hiding from myself or hiding parts of myself from the world around me? Places where we've gotten smaller, where we've agreed to dim the light, right? To maybe keep other people comfortable or for fear of shining too brightly, too vibrantly, if our family dynamic, our origin story didn't celebrate that in us, right? So this is where mindfulness and IFS are one and the same. Mindfulness is to witness the whole range of emotions, the whole range of experience. IFS is to witness the whole inner world and to give each of our parts equal standing. So I'm going to today, because you're joining me, I'm going to vulnerably share about my own parts, just so you have that human touch point to hopefully empathize with. And so in the next slide, I will introduce you to some of my parts and paint a bigger picture of what this work really is. But before we get there, I want to offer a little turning inwards, and that when we start to meet our parts, we want them hopefully to meet again and again and again, lifelong. I'm really interested in the whole range of who I am, which is versatile and complex and dynamic and ever shifting, right? You never step into the same river twice, as they say. And so for my parts who are constantly evolving and learning and messing up and improving and becoming more tolerant, hopefully more loving, more kind, right? To learn from one another and to integrate so that I feel as I move through the world like I'm a unified organism, one that has beautiful distillations, let's say. But to be gathered rather than to feel fragmented is to really sweep up all the parts that are out wandering through the inner ecosystem and give them an anchor, a ground of being to be with. So hopefully you have a little cozy setup here, because I'm going to invite you into a supine twist. I love taking lying down twists from my bed, or if you have a yoga mat or some cushions and you want to do it on the floor. I want to just invite you in first to lie down. And you can hug the knees to chest before we take the twist, or come into a Baddha Konasana, a butterfly. And take a moment, already shared some content. Just give you a moment of silence here in the midpoint of the day to arrive. Put the to-do list away. This beautiful time we have together. And when you're ready, we'll head into the supine twist by dropping the hips and the knees left. If you have any shoulder sensitivity, the hands can rest in the belly. Called Qigong the heart. Or you might cactus the elbows or even T open the arms. As you slide the heart and spin the gaze rightward, opposite the rotation of the hips and knees. And so, as I suggested already, IFS is a contemplative methodology. It's all about I once had a teacher say, your life is informed by the questions you're asking or not asking. And so in this twist, we'll intermingle a two-pronged inquiry. First side of the twist, I want you to scan in your body, in your life, for a part that is celebrating right now. A part of you that feels really joyful, right? You're excited, celebrated, loved. Something in your world that's sweet in this moment, in this season of your life. Really celebrate it. And when you found just one thing, notice the mood. Any sensations in the body, mind. There's a particular region of the body that's activated or lit up. It's hosting this storyline. But a part of your inner world that's celebrating something right now. It's going well for you. And then you feel that in the fabric of the body, usually localized to a few or a singular spot. And then just in the last 3, 4, 5 breaths, thinking, breathing body, breath nutrition, just feeding this heart with your robust attention. And then eventually we unwind it back to a neutral pose. No rush. Maybe a mini Shavasana, a happy baby, just a chest. Kind of like the Etch-a-Sketch here, we recalibrate. Back in neutral. Before heading to the second side. And so eventually, knees drop right. Really a spin from the base of the ribs, like this Tibetan prayer wheel. The rib wheel, shoulder girdle spins left, while the hips and knees roll and sink rightward. Hands to belly, or another expression through the upper body, the shoulder girdle. Wherever you are, stay light through the fingertips, ungripping, open through the palms. You open the fascia in the palms of the hands. You open the bronchioles, upper lobes of the lungs. So it's an easeful breath in the second side of the twist. second set of the inquiry process, whereby on this side, we notice a part that has pain, confusion, and uncertainty. Maybe it's exhausted. It's a part of you that's suffering right now. Just choosing one thing for now. It could be minor or major. Beautiful, everyone. So just take a little more time on this side to connect with that part, because the work here is, can I stay with as much interest, as much care and attention to the parts that are suffering, to the damp, the dark, the stress. And I link breath here to stay with myself here. And then when that feels balanced, we come back through center. What if all the parts of me, from the ancient to the tree, from the formal to the free, from the jester to the brooder, the scholar to the woo-woo healer, from the saltwater spring to the old forest fire, we're not just integrated, but reconciled. I'll meet you back and seated. And I want you to take a moment to just jot down those two parts we just met. There's a part that's celebrating, there's a part that's suffering, right? In Buddhism, we call this the dukkha and the sukha, what the Buddha called the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows of being alive. Well, IFS is the technology to not just integrate, but reconcile the distillation, the vibrant versatility of our parts. So jotting down who's here, right? What material we're bringing in helps us to be more empowered, more embodied, more self-aware. Who's here? What's informing, my lens as I take in the world around me? Really, our parts are those viewpoints, those touch points by which we absorb reality and then respond to it. So, as promised, as you're writing about your own parts, here's an extremely embarrassing little mandala of my own parts. And what I'm hoping to convey here in this vulnerable share is is that we all have such a vibrant complexity. We all have multiple personality disorder. And that's actually a really good thing. Multiplicity in the psyche creates a more dynamic, robust, rich weave for this life that we get to live. And we don't know how long we get to have here. So do I want to spend all my waking hours as the yoga teacher? No, that's not a very fun place to be when you're on a boat in Thailand snorkeling and drinking God knows what. There's the mother matrix of me, right? There's the yoga teacher, there's the nature lover, the adventurous, the glam, the not so glam. And what the IFS process is all about is creating a map of who we are in all of our vibrant array, right? The tapestry of this human being, because I want self energy, which is at the middle of this mandala, to be the core by which each of these parts have access to, can feel safe with, can rely on, can be resourced from, and can feel heard and seen. Self is like the caretaker in which all of our parts are, we become grandmother's lap, as Roshi Joan Halifax's famous phrase, grandmother's lap, like the Buddha nature within, where all of our parts are like our inner children can come and be met. When we're living through just one of these parts, that's when we start to get that self imposter or like the imposter syndrome, and where we start to self sabotage and fear seeps in. For example, if going back to the yoga teacher role, right, that's a part that I feel strong in, confident in. I love it, feel passionate about it. So that part has gotten a lot of resource in my life, right? It often drives the ship. I'm teaching often. I give it a lot of airtime. I play that role comfortably. But if I was only to play that role, and not know how to step into the oscillation field of being in other spaces, I'd be a much worse mother, right? Because yoga teacher, while that has its own set of credentials and skills, doesn't necessarily overlap with the parts of me that know best how to mother or how to discipline or how to sing nursery rhymes or, cook pancakes at 5 in the morning. So we want for a really successful life to be able to oscillate between all of these different parts so that we feel connected and really a magical sense of purpose and alignment as we get to dance through all of the different beings of who we are. And we need a format, we need a container, we need an IFS inform container to do that inquiry work. What parts are present? Who's getting airtime? Who's getting shoved to the back? Who am I embarrassed to be, but lives somewhere within me, deep in a hidden recess, right? The diversity of the lived life, right? We want this vibrant tapestry, but it's fueled by this central inner vision, your essence energy, right? We call this self energy, and that can't be abolished. So that if you got fired from your yoga teacher job, or you were never able to rock climb again, or you were never able to travel again, or get on a yoga mat, or there's a death and you're no longer a daughter or a mother, right? God forbid. Those cycles that are guaranteed in our life of grief and loss don't impact the central self in the way that they do our parts. So when we have that anchor of belonging to ourself, we get to oscillate through our parts with a little bit more flexibility and ease. So self has to be the leader. Otherwise, there's burnout, there's exhaustion, there's imposter syndrome, right? I think you're getting the idea here. And so, love this quote. Sarah Powers is one of my teachers and dear friends. And she says, our life is constantly showing us where we are on the path of our development. Whatever material you're bringing in, right? What you're celebrating and what you're suffering, that is the work. That is the material. There's a famous Buddhist tenet, turn all mishaps onto the path, meaning whatever feels confusing and exhausting right now, it's not that we have to overcome that in order to get back to living from our central selves. It's learning how we meet those parts, those burdened constrictions. That is our way back to self. That is how we hone the inner Buddha by turning mishaps onto the path of awakening. It becomes the very material for our evolution. So, this IFS, again, psycho-spiritual contemplative methodology or a depth psychology process, hopefully now that's starting to flesh out with a little bit more context. The purpose here, the purpose of what we're doing is to learn how to not avoid, right, the challenging aspects of the self, of our life, knowing grief is a guarantee, change, loss, uncertainty, all of these phenomena we don't really prepare for, but somehow genuinely know that they're guaranteed in our life. We want to use this psychological inward investigation to learn where our unresolved sorrow is, where our deep grief is, and to tend to it deeply and skillfully as an opportunity to host difficulty, which allows us to awaken and find a more liberated heart mind, more ease in our day to day. Right. So if the Buddhist practice is about waking up, IFS is about growing up, right? It's a maturing of the selfhood to be able to be this really skillful, elegantly refined, loving, tolerant inner mother or inner authority that can host the frequencies of all of our parts. And so, just as I'm learning in my own mother being as she evolves with my son, he's a year and a half now, uh, I'm learning to host the different vibrations of his mood tones, whether he's frustrated or elated, right? At whatever time of day, whatever the need is, that secure attachment, I'm here, right? I'm going to hold you. I'm going to witness you. I'm going to keep you safe, keep you feeling seen. Doesn't mean we always necessarily give in to exactly what that request is, but we're there, right? Self energy or the inner mother. I'm here, even in the challenging aspects of who you are or what this moment brings. To care for the young inner child or children in us that didn't know, because so many of us grew up in a family dynamic where we didn't know it was okay to not be okay in moments, right? Particularly in the West. Someone asks, "How are you?" The answer unequivocally is, unless you've got a deep, raw, vulnerable relationship with the inquirer, normally the response is, "I'm good." How are you? Well, this is the work where we open to the full stained glass, right? That whole mosaic. And so those unattended spaces, the spaces in our psyche where we had to grow up really quick, where we had to get rigid, dim ourselves, turn off some of that emotional bandwidth, that emotional intelligence, particularly for men, right? Who didn't necessarily have the modeling, the masculine modeling of I can be a strong masculine and it's okay to cry and it's okay to be scared and show my vulnerabilities, right? This is the retraining, this is the recalibration. And so the method is that parenting, that inner parenting of self energy and giving mindful attention and also attendance based on the needs, the roles, the fears, the concerns, and the requirements of our parts. So, mindful attention is the courage to see what's here. It becomes one of the places. IFS becomes the field where we meet ourselves again and again and again, and where we come to not hide from ourselves, from the full spectrum radiance of who we really are. Eventually, if we stay with this long enough, we develop the bandwidth to be with whatever life brings and whatever the inner world needs or asks for, because we've created this template in the organism that knows how to be with challenge, that knows what it's like to be in deep celebratory ease and blissful space, right? That template that knows how to return to confidence and to clarity. This is the ruler of self energy. And when you allow it to take the central seat, the throne, that becomes our inherent baseline, right? Challenges occur, trauma is expected, loss, grief, of course, part of the path. I know how to come home, right? That's where we want to get to. I can come home, I can be with myself, even in the midst of dot, dot, dot. So, this access to central self, it's said to be embodied by these 8 C words, this list. I love this image, this mandala of the C words. These are a list of suggested language, each one of these an inner prompting that can turn self energy, turn your Buddha nature back online. So if you can render in yourself a sense of compassion, in that moment, you have access to self, right? Even if whatever's going on, you have self as a resource. If you can get curious about what's happening, self energy is present. If there's a sense of calmness, courage, confidence, connectedness, right? Creativity. The good news is you only need one of those C words to have self energy present, right? Remember that golden seed in the middle of the mandala. All of your parts they could be whacked out and anxious and bankrupt and heartbroken and starving and whatever. But if you can render one of those C words, you've got a resource to navigate that. You can make it through. So if you're at least feeling one of those, you might notice you're playing a part or being in a role or navigating some complex terrain, but central self is there as a resource. And so, what I want to suggest to you with the little bit of time that we have, I want you to choose one of these words: connectedness, confidence, courage. You could choose creativity or compassion. Self is curious. There's clarity. There's calmness, of course. So choose one that you're going to work with over the next week. It's your key word. It's your anchor. It's an incantation. It's a prayer. Anytime you feel activated, triggered, annoyed, anxious, unruly, go back to that word and see if you can just pause for a moment and try to pull that word in. Try to pull the energy, right? Each word is like a world. It's a body prayer. You try to pull that energy in. So the next time, if, for example, you chose compassion, this is your homework for the next week. And I'm going to expect that you follow up with me in a week and tell me how it went. You can always move on to the next C word, right? In this mandala. But choosing one word over the next 7 days, it's your prayer anchor. You use that as a little window of space. I'm so aggravated right now. I'm sitting in traffic and I'm late for work and whatever it is. Can I feel compassion in this moment? Where is that feeling tone of compassion? Where does that live in the body? How can I access that? Ah, there it is. If even for a brief flash, you have a glimpse of it and then it meanders away, that's the work here. So you choose one of those words to lean into. And this is the way we cultivate more access to self energy, right? When reactive parts arrive over this next week, when, not if, when they arrive, you come back to that C word and try to bring it in. Try to bring it into the body field. Okay. Here's Oliver. This is my son. I wanted to bring this in because he's a Buddha and a reminder that we're all born boundless and loving. And I can say for sure, right, this concept of bodhicitta or Buddha nature, self energy, right? IFS, a central assumption is we're born in with selfhood, with this radiant, clear, confident, bubbly, connected, courageous, calm inner life. And it's so clear in young ones, right? Their joy, their boundless heart. We took Oliver to the aquarium recently and he fell in love with every single damn fish, everyone. It's like that's how wide our heartscape is. Our heart field is boundless. And so we need to be reminded because we forget and we have parts that don't believe that that's so for us. And so we need mentors, we need Sangha, we need spiritual family, we need inner protocols and practices to remind us who we really are. Bubbly, joyful, easeful beings that can be comfortable with the swing of emotions and the human form unfolding, right? Children, they can cry in one moment and then they can be jubilantly excited in the next. And they can oscillate without staying loyal and rigid and fixed to one identity structure. There's something very key in preserving our youthfulness by that swing of oscillation of different roles, right? I can be a serious and very philosophically profound teacher. I can also jump on a boat halfway across the world and chug a beer, right? We want the dynamism, that whole complexity to keep us richly awake and enlivened. And this text is looking a little bit funny, but hara is the space in the body where we can anchor in those 8 C words, where compassion can be felt, connectedness, where we can feel calm. This is the center of the being. It's said to be the chi elixir, the prana field, the site of self energy. It's where our inner body's meridian flow resources from. It's the low belly, right? Hara is the space in between navel and the pubic bone, and then inwards towards the spine, right? So not the front body, but imagine just this whole like central orb across the ilium, the low belly, the kidney band. Really, you can think of it as spanning the first 3 chakras, that whole inclusive orb of intentionality. It's the body coordinator to see how fully am I living in self right now, right? If I'm up in the head or coming in through the heart where there's attachment sites and envy and desire, right? The head's got all these plans and managerial expectations and concerns. It's mercurial, it's very good at that. But the hara, if we can sink into an embodied space of belly intelligence, then we're really living from self, from Buddha nature, and we can oscillate fluidly, that slide and glide through different parts, but keep coming back to that site of self. So let's practice actually what that feels like. Yeah, because if Hara is a new concept to you, it does take a little time to get yourself out of the head and to orient in this center of gravity. So wherever you are, seated, lying down, if it feels comfortable to close your eyes. Re-arrive in through the inner body. And bring your hands to rest, soft palm, resting at the low belly. On the next inhale, draw the breath in through the third eye. So just in between the brows, pull the inhale into the center of the brain, and you'll just sweep there. All that kinetic energy, the thinking mind, the activity there, sweeping at the top of the inhale, where you can then exhale and send that force of life down. Exhale, send it to the belly to land in the Hara garden. We'll try that a few more rounds. So you pull the inhale in through the doorway of the third eye. Pause at the top of the in-breath, sweep the chi, come in through the skull, the cerebral activity here. And exhale, draw yourself out of the head, sink down to the belly. 3 more times like that. Inhale, pull it in, sweep the chi through the skull. Descend on the out breath like you're settling into up into the face. 2 more times on your own. Slow it down. Right to the inner body. And then choose that C word that you selected and invite it in, right? Say it inwardly here in this Buddha belly. Draw in that C word as a template, as a basic being in your bones, in your body, resonating with that frequency of that word. I am confident. I am compassion. Here is clear. Here is calm. Beautiful. And then come on back to that part that you identified. You can stay lying down, eyes closed, seated, wherever you'd like to be. But I want you to come back to that part from the beginning that was suffering. Feel it somewhere in the body. Where is it being hosted in this moment? So find that part and focus on it. So now we're moving from that central self that's compassionate and clear, and we're pouring our interest, our attention, giving it fully now to a part that's carrying a burden, that's difficult to sit with. But nonetheless, you go towards it with that C word, and you try to feel it as welcome, right? Rather than trying to fix it, manipulate it, manage it, move it away. Can you feel curious about it? Can you feel compassion towards it? Then you know there's a little self energy, at least a little. This part isn't alone, doesn't have to navigate the path in isolation. Let it know, I see you, I'm with you. Notice if it has anything to share with you, anything it wants you to know. You could ask this part if it needs anything from you. How can I support you? Or do you feel my compassion for you? Let this part know you are here. Self is here. The inner caretaker, this kind central authority. So it knows the sorrow it carries, it doesn't carry alone. See if it has any particular requests, needs, fears. And just practice listening to it. And then take the next 3 to 5 breaths to re-arrive in that home ground of the hara. So you come out of entanglement with this part and instead sink into the basin of the Buddha belly where you can witness the part, but not be enmeshed. So you can decide what kind of attention to give to it, how to navigate with it, but you're not blended with it. You know that it's a part and there's a deeper well of self energy present. Gorgeous. And then a moment with your journal, a good time to check in, a couple minutes to jot down who that part was. If it had any sacred requests, any deep fears, any insights from meeting it, Buddha belly, from the top, and rise up like sap rising, like mist rising, attend to parts that need support. And then sink back down to that basic space of being safe there, visions from there. What was that like for you? It's a moment to jot down. This is a little glimpse, y'all, into the IFS immersion. There are deep ways to process pain that's swift and to come back to wholeness. Before IFS, the dogma in the psych world was that deep trauma takes a long time to heal. And when we can access parts effectively and from central self, we can eradicate those long-term tension patterns, the holding of the burdens and the exiles. Truly, as I said in the beginning of this session, IFS, as I've seen it, has been the swiftest vehicle to maturing out of those ancient dilemmas. So the IFS virtual circle is one of the offerings that moves us as quickly as is possible, as swiftly but as potently through the methods of IFS. It's a 3-month container. We meet once a week to dive into the protocols, the practicums, processing our own parts, creating that mandala, that web of who we are, building our access to self energy, and then learning how to share these tools, because I work this in family dynamics, at the Christmas dinner party. I work it into my yoga classes, with my one-on-one clients, in the mentorship world, in whatever therapeutic offering you are putting forward, even if that's how you mother, right? Or how you move through a divorce, how you switch jobs, right? How you sell your house, whatever decision you make, and whatever your work is in the world, whatever material is yours to move through, to do it with self as the central pillar and having a deep understanding of parts. So this is my flagship IFS offering. It's such a beautiful way to learn the process. There's an art and a science to IFS. And so we learn the structure, the scaffolding. There's 6 steps. You can just work again and again and again till it's so deep in your bone marrow. You teach it, you live it, you offer it. So it is for professional practice, but it is for personal too, right? Because we've got to have that touch point. And you also get to do one-on-ones with me each month. So we'll be working through our own parts and having a safe space, that mentorship relationship where you get to bring your parts and we do that work together. And you also get paired with partners where you get to practice hosting others in this journey and getting that IFS work in a few different ways. So there's lecture, there's experiential, there's embodied mindfulness protocols, there's one-on-one and partner work. It's a really rich season, and we start next month. So here's some of the testimonials from the last circle I led. I love what years of talk therapy could never get me. It's so true. It's like there's only so much we can do when we're just analyzing and dialoguing, and the way that we relate to our parts and what's happening is really where we get to experience the magic, the alchemy. So to show up differently for yourself, for your clients, to build the tools, find the inner sanctuary, that's really what this IFS circle is for. And as always, a photo of me with dirty feet, several different parts illuminating through, ways to stay connected. I really love this work. I love working one-on-one, but there's something magic about that 3-month commitment to the container. It's a deep process. If you feel ready for deep change, it's a great container to enter into for the summer. I will send this recording out, and I'm wishing you all such a beautiful journey into the rest of your day, the rest of your week, the rest of your world. We don't know, how long we have here. And so the interest is to stay awake and vivid and compassionate for as long as we have. And this work, I really feel, is one of the mainstays I keep coming back to. So please reach out if you have any questions, any feedback. Big, big love to each and every one of you. See you on the path. Big love to you all.